everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, September 30th. We've got our final Notre Dame film review in the game against Arkansas, where Notre Dame won 56 to 13. And we're going to talk a little bit about what Marcus Freeman said about the defense yesterday. We're going to talk about the game against Boise State, Notre Dame's offense, and a whole bunch of topics that come up in the chat. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. If you like what you if you like what you hear, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know whatever it is we are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. He is Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sport coats. Notre Dame has reloaded for this season, and you need to reload your wardrobe to add the perfect suit, sport coat, tuxedo, or casual jacket for fall. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com and step into confidence with Chicago's finest. Mention ISD at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. Jamie, I was listening to Spencer Daniels today, head coach for Boise State.
Or Danielson,
excuse me. Spencer Danielson. I apologize. A lot of comments about Notre Dame, some flattering comments. CJ Carr, first round pick. Jeremiah Love, first round pick. Jadarian Price, first round pick. I see what you're doing, Spencer Danielson. Yes. I see what you're doing, and I don't appreciate it. He's doing the rat poison thing. Oh, they're the greatest team we've ever seen. First round picks, this, that, and the other. I see what game he's playing there, Jamie Uyeyama, and we're monitoring that situation. Your thoughts on his comments?
Yes, but to be fair, those guys have played pretty well.
No, it falls into the true, but I see what you're doing category. So,
yes, yeah,
and that's
and also too, like, I think, yes, it's definitely like when you're overtly saying that kind of stuff, you're doing it on purpose. But I mean, Marcus Freeman does it all the time too, right? Like he's
for sure.
Every coach does it, but it's very as Steven said, it's Lou Holtz playbook.
Very Lou Holtz thing to do.
Yeah. A lot of sandbagging.
It is, but in this instance, they have been playing pretty well. So we'll get into the Boise State game in a little bit. Notre Dame's coming off their best performance defensively of the season. I think that's fair to say. What is if you were to pinpoint a single thing for the reason for that? First of all, there is not a single thing. There's multiple factors that go into that. But if you were to pinpoint the most important factor in why Notre Dame had their best defensive performance against Arkansas, what would you think that would be?
Honestly, I thought that there was no, or at least that I didn't see pre-snap, like confused, like there wasn't a lot of that. And I mean, Arkansas does a lot of pre-snap motion. They do a lot of, they do a lot of window dressing. There just wasn't a lot of that where the previous 3 games, there was so much of it. And which was, I think, indicative of like where, of the results. Like that was, it made sense. Like guys were unsure, guys weren't playing as fast, guys weren't, as assignment sound. And like, even I would say a lot of those ones were, it's funny because I know like Talon Green has his grades were like pretty good for PFF. I never understand the PFF grades, to be honest. It's so out of whack. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And I guess because they do, like, they give you the bonus points for the big time throws. And like, obviously, like that throw that he made in the first drive, the 33-yarder post was like
pretty sick.
It was awesome. Like
between two safeties over the linebacker. It's
linebacker,
really
like,
good.
you know,
Yeah.
love how people were like, yeah, Bowen should have had that. It's like, no, no one's getting that. I'm sorry. Like, it's just, it was a great throw. And I get that, but there was like a lot of other things, like, like the play that Christian Gray broke up where he jumped up. I don't know if he
Yeah.
could have two hands or whatever, who knows. But on that play, like, there was nothing. And if you look at a lot of this stuff too, where they end up getting like pressure or where he ended up having to throw it away or scramble out and whatever, is like there was nothing. It wasn't guys weren't running open. Even the guys that were like maybe kind of winning it, man, it was like tight.
Mm-hmm.
It was tight. And I just thought that was, I think coverage wise, I think that was the main thing. They definitely got more pressure by rushing floor. I think that was something that was big in the game and all that. But like, I really think on the back end is where they were just like a lot better.
Yeah. I think so. It's a good point about the confusion aspect, because that's something I want to talk about yesterday, because Marcus Freeman said something yesterday where he kind of alluded to he kind of alluded to we're not doing anything different scheme wise or coverage wise. He just said we're making it a little bit simpler in what we're asking them to do within the coverage. And he didn't, and he made a comment. What did you make of the comment about the signals from the sideline and trying to like disguise them? Because when I heard that, and it was something that I've been wondering about, because when he's talking about changes to the defense or whatever, and the fact that we've kind of noticed like they're so confused like at the snap sometimes. I think one thing they might have done to change and make it easier for the players is that there's not as many post or pre-snap checks like while someone goes in motion, because I feel like they might have been changing coverages or changing rules or who goes where a little too much in the first 3 games, where it's like you're trying to get into the perfect call based on the formation that they're in. Yeah. I think that might have been happening a lot. And because he kind of gave reference to that. And so that's a way where it's like people talk about simplifying. You're not simplifying the scheme itself. You're simplifying what coverage they're playing and the check that they're going to get put into versus, this type of formation, or if they motion over here. Yeah. I was wondering if you kind of picked up on that as well.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking about that, because one thing that always stood out about, especially about Al Golden's defense, was like even in practice, because they like in the spring they would run things that you just normally don't see in the spring in terms of like, hey, we're getting this motion, we're getting this formation here, and we're checking at this and that. Yeah. They were so on top, and it's like that's usually just not something you see, especially in spring ball, of like, wow, like that. It seems so game specific, but it's like it probably was game specific. They were like preparing already for things that they were going to see during the season. But that kind of thing is like you would just see it, and they were just so on top of it, like everything was there, and it didn't seem like, it just seemed like this, like they're doing this, we're going this, like, and it was just very like simple, because it was just like that's what it was. And maybe there's just too much like echoing of like, oh, it's doing this, well then linebackers got to do this, and then I don't know that that's the case, but it's like it seemed like there had to have been stuff like that, because how else would there be these mistakes that you had? Right. So I think that made sense to me. And I mean, obviously that's something like you should have got fixed way earlier, but like it's good that they are addressing it. At least
it should have been identified. We were talking before Power Hour yesterday, like the game, the time between Miami and Texas A&M was not well spent in figuring out what the problems were. Yeah. And that's even from like a personnel point of view. Because like, I kind of understand, because I tweeted out, and I want to have a discussion about this, because my big thing, like the one thing that I think made the difference between like why Arkansas game was better than all the previous games. This is, I think they've finally gotten an idea of like, okay, this is what our lineup is. This is our best group, and we need to just start building off of these guys. And prior to the Miami game, because and then it's very hard on Twitter when you post a thought like that and people start like, who's to blame? It's like, I'm not trying to blame anyone. I'm making an observation, right? I don't care to blame people. I'm just making an observation that it just seems to me like, man, you watch Bronte Johnson, it's like that guy, he's just better than Jalen Stroman is. Like, and it's not anything. I'm not trying to like bag on Jalen Stroman. Bronte Johnson is just more twitchy. He's kind of that more of a playmaker. His range is so much better in center field than his. Like, and to be clear, Jalen Stroman, much like Rod Hurd last year, Rod Hurd last year, he has a role on this team. Like when he comes to fill the run, he is better than Bronte Johnson at that, and that's okay, right? He can continue to do that, right? Like, I don't want them to sit Jalen Stroman forever. Like, I want him to have a role like Rod Hurd had last year, where he's coming down to fill the run at times. Because man, he caps the pipe like as good as a Don Schuler does or did last year, right? But it's like, man, Bronte Johnson, like, and look, this isn't even me like making giving this an opinion. Like, it is borne out in the fact that now Bronte Johnson plays pretty much every snap.
Yes,
and so that's the deal. Like the Carson Hobbs, Mark Zachary thing, like it is borne out in the fact that now Mark Zachary is a full-time player, and Carson Hobbs has been taken off nickel, and they have just moved on from that experiment, right?
Yeah.
That's the other one. And look, the Miami game, I kind of understand because it might be hard to get a freshman like Mark Zachary ready to go to play big snaps. It might be, you don't know exactly what you're getting from
Texas A&M last year. It was the same kind of thing, right? Where they didn't play those freshmen.
You just don't know, right? But I think after Texas A&M or after Miami, pre-Texas A&M, like I think you could kind of see, like, okay, because now Bronte Johnson has been the full-time. He was a full-time safety in the half of the Texas A&M game, and then since then he's basically barely sat down. I think the KVA thing, like the amount of snaps that he played against Miami was like, what are you doing? Like how is that possible? Like you don't. I was thinking, like, who is the best player on Notre Dame's defense right now? Just the single best player with Leonard Moore out of the lineup.
With Leonard Moore out,
yeah.
I'd say it's probably KVA or Gabriel Rubio.
Yeah. Last play of the game, 4th and goal.
Oh no, Boubacar. Sorry, I should say Boubacar. I actually think is the best guy.
Yeah.
Like, and then I would put KVA and then like Rubio there. But KVA, sorry to interrupt, but just like you do notice him all the time because he's like, he sets a tone in a different way than everyone else. It's a lot like Maris Leofau, except for he's like a better all around player than Maris was.
Yeah.
But the same, like, one of the reasons why Maris brought extreme value was like the violence he brings. Like KVA brings that violence.
Yeah.
And he can do more, obviously, in terms of like some of the just pass rush stuff and all that too, just the edge stuff. Anyways, you go on.
The biggest play of the season against Texas A&M on the 4th, he's not on the field. Like that's just that's a choice. Like that's
I think that is 100% a mistake to not do that.
But so it just goes to my larger point that I think now that they have made the adjustment and it's like, okay, we know who our best players are now. Like I watch Mark Zachary. He is a better player than Carson Hobbs is. Just period. And I'm just surprised that I think that's true of Tay Johnson as well. Not in Carson Hobbs, but on like a Jalen Stroman, Like I just watching it just seems like that's true. And I think they were late to that. I'm surprised by that because it's a Mickens position. And
Yeah.
and I don't want to get into like again blaming him because I don't know all the information and I don't know where those guys were coming out of camp and all those other things, right? But I think now that they have identified their guys, that gives them a chance to now ascend as a defense.
And I think you bring up a really good point. The fact that like you figure out who those guys are too, but also it's like, I think part of it is they thought, hey, we're running this and these guys are the best at running this. It's like, but that doesn't help you be the best on defense. Like you have to play your best players and get them like the guys who are the most talented, the guys who could create the most, who can do the most, who you tailor it around their strengths. And that's really kind of what it's about. Right. And I don't think I think that's the main thing that I would say if I was going to, with Chris Ash, you would just say 100% the biggest thing is that they have not played to the strengths of all of the guys on the roster. Mm-hmm. And that is why, like, it doesn't matter, like, talent if you're not doing that, right? Yeah. Like, and it's like one of the things, and this is, I think, is a really good way to look at it, is you look at how they played, Xavier Watts played in 2023. Yeah. And obviously he won Nagurski Award. He was a great player, right? Made incredible game against USC. He was a playmaker, all of that. But he was so much better in 2024 and he could do more stuff. And because some of the deficiencies that he had in terms of like man coverage, playing single high, like all that kind of stuff, he wasn't good at that before. He wasn't. And him improving there allowed them to expand what they do and be better. Right. But if they would have called it the same way they did in 23 with that, he would have looked a lot worse, and I think that's just something that, I don't think, you have to have a really good feel for your personnel. And sometimes you're learning stuff about it. Cause it's like, okay, like a Cole Mullins, right? Like maybe because obviously he's young, he hasn't played before, right? And he's undersized. And then sometimes you don't know until you actually get him in a game. And then you're like, okay, well now we want to see more, right? Like like the Watts thing in 2022, right? Like, it's like, okay, we want to see more. So I get that, but it's like, some of it also is like a lot of the guys who were returning, you got to know that. And that is something that I guess you're the new guy. So I understand it. Like Ash is the new guy. Like that is the thing. That also to me falls on, because if he's not listening to the defense, that falls on Marcus Freeman to be like, hey, I understand you want to do this, but it's like, this is why we do this with this guy. And it's like, you want to give the new person a certain amount of autonomy, but you also have to be like, this is wrong if we're not doing this, because there's no reason why Adon Schuler, like the fact that, someone mentioned Adon Schuler is like, he's the next best guy on the defense. Like, I'm just talking about how they've played this
year. Right. And I don't think you can say that.
And he might actually be the second best guy on the defense or whatever, right? Maybe. But that's not how he's played this year. And I know he had a better game. It was his best game of the year, right? And he was okay in the second half of the Purdue. But like, you can't say based on how he has played this year. But I think a lot of it is how he was used.
Yeah.
How he's been used. And I highlighted it in Six Thoughts last week. Is like, they don't blitz the DBs anymore. Like, that is not a thing. It's just not. They're not activated at all. And I don't know why. Maybe that's just like what he wants to do coverage wise. He always wants to have this, and this set up, whatever. But that was the thing with Golden was like those guys were so active. Like they were so active. And it wasn't like he like blitzed Jordan Clark, Nichols, like, well, Jordan Clark's blitzing like 4 times a game. No, he might he's going to blitz once in a game. But guess what? He's going to bring Schuler once, and he's going to bring Watts once. And it's all of that, and you never knew what was coming. And also, too, when those guys did it, they were very good at it. And they made plays and like blew up plays, so I think, I think about Adon Schuler, and I think about the 2 biggest things for him that I saw from him last year were in the Georgia game. Obviously had the one blew up the play in the backfield, right? It was incredible play, right? Gets forced fumble, huge play to kind of set the tone for the game, really. And also on that same series, they're running, he is head up on a tight end. Safeties do not win against a tight end when you're stacked on a tight end, and he bullied the tight end.
Yeah.
So I think about that kind of thing, and I'm like, well, this is what matters. It's like, that is him. That is how he can be his best, and it's not doing some of the other stuff that he was doing. And yes, he should get better at certain things and all that, but it's all about like enhancing those guys and using the superpower. And not to whatever, I'm not trying to get on the Ravens, but like that is one of the things. I don't think Kyle Hamilton's being used in the same way, and so he's not having the same amount of success because it's a little bit like at Notre Dame where they felt kind of limited because they're like, well, we don't have these other players around him, so we have to play him single high more, and we have to do this stuff. And really, probably if Kyle Hamilton was a nickel defender at Notre Dame, oh my God, he would have had like 20 havoc plays a year. He would have just destroyed.
I mean, and it's just like, I mean, we've seen this. I mean, it's like a Jalen Smith thing, where it's like you have this guy that you're not using correctly. And I think it's part of it is the linebackers too. Like we've talked about this, like the linebackers have 2.5 tackles for loss this year in 4 games. They're on pace for 10 tackles for loss on a 12-game season. One of those tackles for loss is KVA coming off the edge where he's not even like playing the linebacker position. They have him as an edge defender. Yeah. It's like, and we were saying, people are obviously, I think people are just down on Bowen. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter to me. The point is like when is he or Osbury? Because here's the thing. I don't look at it as a Bowen thing. I look at it as a position thing. When they're playing off ball, and this includes KVA, when are they knifing into the backfield and making a read and just going? Never. It does not happen. Like the plays that are on Twitter of like KVA blowing up blockers on counters and stuff. Like Bowen's doing that same stuff. Bowen is doing that, right? And so it's not like he isn't, but none of them are getting into the backfield and making plays. Like their run stops are down, right? Not even tackles for loss. Like their run stops are down because they're just kind of sitting back. And I don't know what the scheme is calling for them to do. I don't know what they're being asked to do on those plays, but like I just know what I'm watching, and I know what I watched last year and the year before, and it's just different, right? And you talked about, how JD Bertrand was used prior to Al Golden getting a feel for how to use him, and then once he did, okay, now we've got like a really good football player. I mean, even Marcus Freeman in 2021 didn't really know how to use JD Bertrand at the beginning, and then it got better as the year went on. But by that point, people had already decided JD Bertrand's a bad player, which is
I think
funny.
The injury was also a big factor.
It was a big factor, but like it's funny because I think people are kind of having that same conversation around Drake Bowen right now. Like JD Bertrand was bad, and so is Drake Bowen, and so is and so was Maris Leafau at a point, and now Bertrand, Bowen, and Jack Kaiser are all in the NFL playing,
and they're like valued guys.
Yeah, very, very good players. The other part too is I think, and this is getting off of Ash or whatever. I think and I wonder if you agree with this. I think there was like exponential growth from game to game from Mark Zachary, from Purdue to Arkansas. And I didn't, again, I didn't think he played that poorly against Purdue at all. We kind of talked about that. But I thought in the Arkansas game, he was just completely different. I mean, he was a guy that they were afraid to, they were like changing coverages to protect him against Miami and Texas A&M. And he goes against Arkansas, who, again, Omega Miller is a dude. He is a real football player. Yeah. Omega Blake, excuse me. Omega Blake is a real football player. He's very good. And Mark Zachary, 1 catch for 8 yards. And that 1 catch came on a cover 3 zone where they were giving up the curl.
Yeah.
So it like, just kind of talk about what you saw from Mark Zachary, because I wanted to talk about that. There is something there that Notre Dame has with Zachary and Dallas Golden. I don't know that they're as advanced as like the Ben Morrisons or the Leonard Moores of the world as freshmen, but they're good football players.
Yeah, but I also like, and I'm not saying that those guys are going to be the next Ben Morrison and the next right. Leonard Moore, but if people remember, like that Louisville game, where Moore, I mean, obviously did some great things in that game, but he also got beat deep in that game, like he didn't get beat deep in every other game.
Yeah,
and well, why do you think that is? Well, it was his first start, and he got better. And he learned from his mistakes, and he, all of these things happen that help him improve. And I think about like Ben Morrison. Well, it's like, I think, he showed good stuff early in the season. Like the fact that he played against Ohio State and didn't look out of place like that, that's a big deal in your very first college football game. But I always remember that because it stands out because it like never happened. Him getting beat in the Syracuse game where he was like giving up like inside leverage, and it wasn't like, it was improper alignment. You could tell just based on how everybody else was aligned or whatever. I'm not saying I knew the call or anything. You could just tell based on how everyone else is aligned, and his technique wasn't good, and all this kind of stuff there. And you're like, wow, he got beat, whatever. And he never got beat like that ever again. Mm-hmm. He never. Like that never happened to him the rest of his career. And people tested him. It wasn't that. It was like, it's because you go and you watch the film and you learn and you whatever. And that's what makes Mike Mickens a great coach. And also, too, it's like Mike Mickens always tells the story about like his very first game, he got bombed like 80 yards, right? Like, and it was like, oh my gosh. Well, guess what? They're retiring his jersey at Cincinnati right now. He was an All-American. It's an all-time great player for them. It's normal for that to happen. You learn from your experiences as a corner. So I just think there's a lot there where there's so much of it is learning things. And then also like confidence is so huge at that position. It just really is, because I think it's like, if you're on tilt, it can just go. And then it's just like, and sometimes it's hard to get it back. And he obviously, you could just tell he looked like a much more confident in everything that he was doing. And I do think him and Golden both have a chance to be, good player. I would say too, like, we don't even know anything about Creed Thomas yet. He's obviously not playing.
Right.
But
we haven't seen him. I can't.
But because who was the one? Because there was somebody who asked about like the future at corner, right? It was like they were worried about the future at corner yesterday in the Power Hour.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And to me, like, I'm like, what? Like, you're worried about the future at corner? Like, first of all, Leonard Moore, as long as he's back and healthy, which he should be eventually, in the next couple of weeks, whenever, like, he's got another year. Christian Gray right now is not going to the league at this point of, based on how he's played this year. And you have Zachary and Golden, and who knows what you have with Creed Thomas. You also have other guys coming on the way. Like, I think they're going to be pretty darn good at corner for the foreseeable future, right? Like, I don't think that was a weird question to me that, that person asked, because I was like, what? Like, do you not? just because maybe they thought that, Zachary got cooked in the Purdue game or something, or like, I don't know.
I think that it's because the numbers were the numbers with Zachary. And so I think the impression was they were kind of begrudgingly playing him. And same with kind of Dallas Golden, right? It's not because they were ready. It's because they had to with injuries and stuff. And I think for us, I think for us, those kind of questions are like, why are you asking that? Because like we literally watch every play like 3-4 times. And so like we evaluate it like on a like a day-to-day basis. And I do think that the traits, because frankly, I might have thought that after Purdue, but I think the traits that we saw from Zachary and Golden, and then to see Zachary in play the way he did against Arkansas, is kind of like, oh, okay, like that's a player, and then you watch Dallas Golden on tape against Purdue, and you think, oh, okay, like that's a player, you can see it, right? From an athletic point of view, like not everything's not always perfect, obviously. So it's like, to me, those are really good football players. Christian Gray is not going anywhere. Like, it would be crazy to me if he was to leave. Yeah. Like, and by the way, like Notre Dame's entire secondary, like 6-7 deep, is going to be back next year after beyond Jalen Stroman. And so that is obviously important. Just to kind of keep in mind, like
it was Tyler who asked. Sorry.
Yeah. Tyler Borgman.
So Tyler, if you want to just throw his comment up there, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, you definitely don't want to play two guys at corner 90% of it. You do, it isn't sustainable. But that's also too why you want to get like Zachary and Golden, and these, like, for Zachary and Golden to even get this amount of reps is like, it's not good that there's injuries, obviously, but it's helpful. It's like really helpful that they can do that. And ideally you play four corners, right? Like that's the ideal, like kind of what Notre Dame did when they had Mickey and Gray were the backups, behind Hart and Morrison. Like that's ideal if you can have that kind of situation. But I'm going to just tell you, like, Boise State plays pretty much two corners, like outside corners, right? Like that's what they do. Like a lot of teams are like that because you can't put somebody out there if they're not ready, because it's 6 points like that. Right. And, I think you want to have at least three, and I think 4 is ideal. And I think they're in a position to kind of get there. You could just say that, like, you would have hoped that there was, like, say, like Micah Bell turned out, or, Hobbs was the guy that people thought he was going to be prior to this year. Of course, we want that to happen. At the same time, you could say, like, well, maybe should they have signed more corners in some of these classes? Yeah, maybe they should have had that, but are all those guys going to stick around? Like Jaden Mickey didn't stick around. Yeah. Right. And he was like playing at least a little bit. He wasn't starting, but he was playing. So just kind of what it is.
Just something on Christian Gray. He gave up 2 catches against Arkansas for 10 yards. Had the pass broken up in the zone. Right. So I think you give up 2 catches for 10 yards. That's good.
It's pretty good.
That's a good game for you against Purdue. So here's why PFF is kind of harsh on DB. So he gets credit, or he is deemed responsible for the throwback to the quarterback touchdown, which maybe technically so, but that's not a coverage error, right? Like no one's going to be like, why Christian Gray is not a good corner, because they did a throwback to the quarterback on like a weirdo play, right? So like in that game, he gave up.
Speaking my language in this, because I have the biggest problem with PFF with this. If you're gonna do this, you got to eliminate some of that stuff. You don't have to track all of it. Like
you don't have to assign every touchdown to a player.
You don't have to assign every single thing when it's a zone.
Yeah.
And a guy does it. It's like, so Bowen gets credited with because I'm looking at their things and I'm like, Omega Blake versus Bowen. I'm like, when was he ever matched up? I'm like, oh, that post route. I'm like, okay, so Bowen was supposed to, basically do one of the hardest things any Mike backer could do. Like, and I know there's somebody out there who will be like, KVA would have made that play. No, like probably no one would have made that play. It's a very hard thing. It's why the thing of like Tampa, you're playing Tampa 2 and that, that backer's got to get deep, their deep middle. It's a reason why that is like a super impossible throw, because the window is so small, and it was a perfect throw. It was a perfect throw. And so he gets assigned giving up 33 yards. That's why too. So I'm like a little bit like, I don't know, like it's different because outside corners, I think it's a bit easier, obviously, especially teams that play man, or like you're playing a lot of cover 3 or whatever, right? Like you can assign it a little bit easier, but that's why too, some of the stuff with safeties, I'm like, you don't know, based on what a PFF numbers of like what this guy's saying, you don't know if that guy's trash in coverage or not. You don't, right? Like you can't tell. So it's just one of those, whatever. It's a valuable tool. I appreciate PFF. I do. I really do. But there is a lot of that.
People need context to kind of have these conversations. The funny thing about KVA that you brought up, I think it's not a lot, but he makes a good amount of coverage errors where he's in the wrong, especially in zone.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't, I don't know that I've seen him play a ton of man, but it's not a man-to-man problem. It's just like he's kind of drifting away from where he needs to be.
He tends to get out of his, like if he's supposed to be hook curl, he will drift.
Yeah.
And I think because some of it is instinctual, because he's maybe thinking like, I'm going to get a pick here or whatever.
For sure.
And I get it. And you know what? One of these days it might end up being that, and that would be fantastic for the defense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely noticed that. I think that's one of the things that if you were going to say where that is probably the thing that I would point to in his game that he needs to improve the most is like, just like his zone drops, where he is, just being disciplined with that. Because I mean, all the other stuff looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, it's not I'm just making an observation. We love KVA, and these types of things, like, and the fact is like he does play in a way that it's like, all right, you live with that stuff because of, because of the way that he plays. If you want to play something and you got to get outside or get your body moving around, and you're tired of the high impact stuff, then maybe try something else like pickleball, Jim. You could play that. And you can go to H2 Pickleball in Mishawaka, founded by Notre Dame alum Todd Hill. He's teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howells, a top 10 pickleball pro, to bring Notre Dame fans to the Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? Membership is free, and members will have access to special pickleball events and discounts. The next Friday event will be a Will Howells pickleball clinic on the Friday before the Syracuse game. Members can also get discounted tickets to the game, to the Syracuse game. Contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or 574-339-5195 to join the league. And be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka, Indiana. Notre Dame's offense. I don't want to be like super hyperbolic about CJ Carr. He is very good at like some of the little stuff, Jamie, that is really just impressive. It's impressive to me. The play that I put on Twitter where there's the linebacker or the safety runs a green dog, and he just runs straight up, and he's the line misses him, and Jadarian Price doesn't see him. And so he just runs right up in CJ Carr's face. And Eli Raridan, he throws the ball at Eli Raridan. Eli Raridan is not first in his progression.
Yeah.
But CJ Carr notices, oh, this guy's coming free. I am going to throw the ball to Eli Raridan. And not only am I going to throw it to him, I'm going to get out quick. I'm going to adjust my arm angle to get it around this guy who's putting his arms up. I'm going to throw the ball to his outside shoulder away from the defense so that he can turn and get up the field.
That was a fantastic play. It was one of his best plays of the game. Yeah.
It's special, man. Like that is special. You know, the play to Will Pauling on the in route where like it's like, oh, he's wide open, easy play. It's like, yeah, it is an easy play, but this is where Arkansas like busts the coverage, and as a quarterback, you don't really count on that stuff. So sometimes what you'll miss a wide open receiver on a bust because it's like, well, I assume that they're going to cover this. So he thinks, first of all, it shows man. So he thinks that Arkansas is going to be a man. So he works the boundary to Micah Gilbert. And the corner presses Gilbert and wins. And so it's like he's going to come off that anyway. But ZJ Carr sees like the corner's looking at him. And so he wouldn't be looking at him if it was a man. So he doesn't turn to the other side of the field. He turns and looks at the safety to find the safety where the safety's at. Sees the safety's vacated. Oh, Will Pauling's going to be wide open on the in route, and he hits him. And it looks like super easy, obvious. But like that's not obvious stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like that sort of thing is just kind of like, man, this guy, like he processes. And this is the holy grail of quarterback play. It's one thing to have all the skill. It's another thing to be able to process and know, oh, this is where the ball should go. And obviously he's not perfect at this. You talked about this yesterday on Power Hour where he made a predetermined decision. He wanted to throw the ball to Greathouse. And maybe he was like, you know what? I want to force feed Greathouse. I want to get him the ball.
Yeah.
Faison comes wide
open. It's
open.
Probably like a directive before the game. Like,
yeah,
we got it. He's just thinking it like, man, I really want like.
And by the way, like Arkansas bust the coverage.
Yeah.
And so he threw it to the wrong guy because
he was just assuming like, that they were going to play.
One of them's going to stay with Faison is going to be open. But it's like that the processing, Jamie, is just what's so special about him.
Yeah. And I think there's just stuff too where you're like, it's processing and it's also like some of it is purposeful if like I'm looking this guy off and stuff too, where, and I think that's one of the things that I would say, that Carson Beck does really well too, is like he processes things quick. And there's things with him that you can tell when he tightens up and whatever. Mm-hmm. But when he is at his best, he's processing things quick. He's looking people off, whatever. Like one of the reasons why that, the pivot route works so well in that game was because it was like, oh, he's looking off the safety first. And that's like why there's nobody there when it's just open like that. And I think that like Carr, you just see that. And there's just like when you combine that with like, I think the ball placement is just so huge. It really, really makes a huge difference. And, which is, speaking of PFF grades, I didn't really understand the whole PFF grades with him, whatever, maybe because he gets knocked for missing a couple of those throws, whatever. He certainly missed a couple, like some of the deep balls to the left side in this game weren't, on target, but also some of them I think were like throwaways too, so I don't know, but I don't, okay. First of all, who knows what a big time throw is, whatever. It's only there. It's some guy who's just like, I think that's big time, I guess that's what it is. But to me, like that back shoulder to Eli Raritan, that's a big time throw. That is a big time throw. That, like you said, changing the arm angle, that's a big time throw. It doesn't always have to be a deep ball that is like on the money, caught in stride, whatever. Like there's just different things there, right? That I personally, if I'm just counting in my head of like how many throws that I've seen from him where I was like, well, that's a big time throw. Like the Taylor Green in, on that post route, like, Marcel Reed, if you watch him and you say like, oh my gosh, like he's got like a hand cannon just, with some of his throws, but he doesn't make a lot of those throws, like he's just, you don't see that. It's like a guy's running open. He can chuck it deep. Yeah. Okay. That's great. But there's a different thing there. And I just think like I more from Carr than I think if you looked at, say, the back half of the Jack Cohn in 2021, where he was really comfortable and like all of a sudden you're like, oh, like he's starting to do that. I thought he had a lot of big time throws in that back half of that season. But that was like not even close to what you're seeing from CJ Carr now, who's in game 4. And he's not in a 5th-year senior or whatever, right? Like, and even like, Sam Hartman, certainly he's a guy who made some big time throws for sure. But like, it's not comparable. It just, and that's really kind of, if you look at why Freeman made the decision to start him, probably because of all these throws that we've seen.
Yeah. And just his, like you said, like I was saying, his ability to process. I mean, he's the scramble on 3rd and 5.
Yeah.
Like little thing, like he makes sure that the defender stays with phase on so that he has a clear path to the first down by pump faking. So like he's running and the guy's looking at him and he could come off and make the tackle, make the hit, or he could stay with phase on. And so CJ Carr pumps it phase on to make sure, oh, you stay there. I'm going to get down the sideline and I'm going to get a first down. It's like that. It's that, and, there was a discussion today, Steve Sarkisian's talking about all these quarterbacks who, the like the Drew Allers and the Cade Klubniks and the Garrett Nussmeyers and the Arch Mannings of the world. And, they're pressing on all these other things. I think it's just like they all have that ability. They all have physical ability. That's one thing they all have, but they just can't either A, they don't have the accuracy when they need it, or B, they just don't have that ability to process. And it's a special thing that, like, and Marcus Freeman talks about it all the time. Like, he just is special, has special traits, and that is one of those traits. And he just has it. So, it's obviously to Notre Dame's benefit. I mean, imagine like I guess the recruiting, the wide receiver recruits right now have to just be over the moon. Just with what they get to play with next year. The problem is it's this year and next year. So like the recruiting class that's coming in, it's like they're not even really going to get the benefit. Like the 27 recruits, they're not going to get the benefit of CJ Carr because he's not going to be around. But what
you really hope though is that it helps them recruit the quarterback position better.
Yeah.
Obviously Teddy Gerard is a pretty, highly rated good quarterback.
He's a good player.
But when you look at it, the previous 2 classes, they didn't land their top guys. Well, I guess you could say Grubbs, in their opinion, was their top guy, but
yeah, I
think a lot of people would disagree with it. So, and whatever, there's still time to be determined about him and Blake Ebert, but like you would expect like the guys to be like, you get that top guy and they're like, hey, I'm there. Part of like Lincoln Riley. He obviously he does a fantastic job with quarterbacks, obviously, but part of it, what made it so much easier was like, he started having that success and it was like, okay, well then sign up the next 5-star.
Yeah.
Because they want to know. And then if Mike Denbrock has Jaden Daniels and then it's like, oh, well, by the way, CJ Carr. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Scott Spurs says, is Minchie that good or were the coaches just underestimating Carr? I think Minchie is good.
He's a good player.
He dropped, again, that pass he threw.
That was a dime.
It was a really good ball. He threw a couple out routes that were on target to Mikey Gilbert. And then there was another one to KK Smith, I think it was. He every time he's played in this season specifically, like he's looked really good and he's thrown the ball really well. Cool. I think they both just had really. And by the way, like Steve Angeli pre-Achilles, like leading college football in passing yards. Notre Dame quarterback room was stacked, Jamie. I mean, my goodness.
We said to people that it was, but I first of all, I knew that he could be. You just watch because. First of all, you study these other teams. You watch these other quarterbacks. You don't have to. You don't have to study. You could just be a casual fan that just watch, and you could be like, Steve Angeli's better than this guy. He's better than that guy. Like that's just kind of what it is, right? Like, so they just happen to have it, and sometimes that happens, right? Where you have a bunch of talent there, and it's just hard for guys to get on the field. Like, uh, I mean, I wouldn't call it, you know, they had a stacked quarterback room based on how some of these other guys playing, but like there were guys in the Bama, the backups for Jalen Milroe 2 years ago. 3 of them are starters now at Power 4 schools, right? So it's like, well, they must be pretty good. Like, I think it's one of these things. It's so hard to evaluate quarterbacks. It's so hard because there's so much that goes into like when they actually get into playing and all the other adversity that happens. And the truth is, you don't know how CJ Carr is going to do when it's like, well, we don't know what's going to happen if they're down 2 touchdowns in the third quarter. It's like, well, now we know.
Yeah,
he can do that. And I think that was probably a big thing that helped open it up to see where they're at now, because they were like, maybe we can trust this guy a little bit more.
Yeah. What's your evaluation through 4 games of Gerby Lambert?
I think there's been a lot of good and a lot of like, growing pains, right? Because I thought in this game in particular, he was probably the guy that if he would have stuck on his block here or made this there, he was very good as a puller when they used him in that capacity. Does a really good job in space there. But like there's the one play that really stood out where it was like, man, everybody blocked it up perfectly, like from tight ends to receivers, everybody.
The Jeremiah Love play?
The Jeremiah Love play ends up being 11-yard gain, but he broke 2 tackles to make it an 11-yard gain.
Yeah.
It was like whole drive a truck through, just
the screenshot I posted on Twitter.
Yeah. And it's a lot like if you would have said like, they had like probably like 4 of them against like Army last year, where you're like, this looks perfect. And it's just like everybody had on a hat, boom. That's just a block you got to make, right? It's a block you got to make. And it's obviously not like an assignment error like he made like in the first game of the season. You don't see like, I haven't seen him make assignment errors. I think there was stuff with, I think he's done a really good job in pass pro for the most part, and I think it also says a lot about like what they think of the job he's done, that, when Knapp went out for that play against Purdue, he was the guy who went in and left tackle and not Styles Prescott. So it's obviously they're happy with his development. I just think he's got definitely like another level up that he can go. And, I think that actually is, if he's able to kind of do that, it's going to be kind of scary, because that will kind of change, because I think Billy Schrauth is playing at a really, really high level at the other guard spot.
Do you think it might be a footwork? I feel like he loses his feet a lot. He gets tripped up and he loses his mount. Is it a footwork thing going to guard from? He's mostly been a tackle.
It could be. That definitely could be. I mean, there's some guys too where it's just like a balancing. I think that was like a Blake Fisher, where it's like he ended up on the ground too much.
Yeah.
And I think because athletically, it's not a thing with Lambert. He's a good enough athlete, especially at his size. So I think it is probably maybe just, there are different technical things that change when you move inside.
Yeah.
So that it definitely could be part of it. And then also too, it's just like, he's just less experienced. So it's just not quite all the way there yet. Or like, it's just, he's human, and it's like, well, he didn't have as good a game there, and then the next game he's going to be dominant. Yeah,
because I recall there's the one play against Miami when he doesn't block down on the quarterback power or whatever. But other than that, I don't recall like clear assignment errors from him.
No,
it's all kind of physical stuff where he like loses his feet, or he stops his feet, or he loses his balance, or something like that.
Yeah,
and I feel like that could just be like he's not used to playing inside. It's you got someone on both sides of you, and there's a lot of bodies, and it's just It could just be a footwork thing. Because like you said, like the good is good.
Good is very good.
And they get him out on like the screen pass, the screen pass that goes for a touchdown to Jeremiah Love. I mean, first of all, perfectly set up, and second of all, like I've made a comment before. Like it's funny how often when you watch screens, how the linemen are just kind of out there, and the running backs use them as shields where they don't even actually have to block anyone. They just kind of like they manipulate the defense based on where the linemen are, and they often don't block people. That is not the case on that particular play. Like the linemen got out and blocked everywhere. And so, or they blocked everyone and they all put a block on. I mean, it was like, I don't know that Jeremiah Love actually got into full sprint at any point on that screen pass. That's as good as a screen as you're ever going to see. So, but anyway, I wanted to talk about, because I think we've talked a lot about, the other linemen, and I wanted to get your thoughts on Gerby Lambert as someone who's kind of new to that, right? Like he's kind of the new guy to the offensive line, and I just watching him, some good and some bad.
Yeah, and I would say too, if like you were going to compare it, because it's similar to Sam Pendleton last year, where he was a redshirt freshman, starting for the first time, and I think with Pendleton, you saw like there was a lot of good. I mean, he's a very good run blocker, and he stayed a good run blocker at he's playing center now at Tennessee. He stayed there, but like he had misses. Obviously, the first game stands out because it was like, well, he had some big misses and assignment errors against Texas A&M, but like that kind of kept up where he would have like one kind of like bad whiff a game where it was like, and not him missing a block, but it was like misses, like an assignment miss, right? And the fact that you haven't seen that with Gerby, I think is really encouraging.
I got something to show you after this show ends. Early look on Boise State. How concerned are you? I think Boise State's defense is ripe for the taking for Notre Dame. It's not that they're terrible. It's just like you got to be like Miami caliber to really slow down Notre Dame, and even Notre Dame moved the ball on them. But I think Boise State's offense has certainly found itself. They run the ball very well. They have two good running backs, and their quarterback is experienced. Just real quickly, we don't have to go into it because we'll talk a lot about it on Thursday. But how concerned are you with Boise State's offense against Notre Dame's defense?
Not all that concerned, because I do think those backs are like pretty good. I mean, they're not Genty. They're not, of course, that level, but they're both good backs. And I actually think that's something they'll dominate the Mountain West, right? And that level, like group of 5 level, they're going to dominate most of those games because they're just more talented and those backs are just better than most of those teams will face. But like you saw how they just got whooped so bad in that South Florida game. And I think both their offensive tackles are good, like pretty good. One of the guys is like definitely an NFL player. Might even be a high pick. KJ Casey, left tackle. He's a good player. But they're not good inside. And just, this is the kind of game where it's like, Notre Dame should dominate their interior guys. And if that happens there, it's like, it's awful tough to run the ball. And I think with Madsen, he's like if anyone watched the Penn State game last year and you saw like this guy, he's tough, he's kind of gritty, he's like going to truck it up and he's going to do all that like stuff, but he's also he's kind of a little bit reckless. He's like a total college quarterback, like this guy's not going to play in the league. He is not, and will throw the ball, he's going to run and scramble and do some stuff, but he's going to throw the ball to Notre Dame a couple times, and they got to just catch it. And I don't think they have at receiver, they don't have the kind of, they have a pretty good tight end, but they don't have the kind of receivers that are going to scare you.
Yeah.
So I mean, certainly I wouldn't put them close to Arkansas's level of talent there.
Yeah.
And defensively, they are so aggressive. I would, the only concern I would have with them defensively, you know, they're fourth in sack rate. They had like 55 sacks last year. Like they're pressure all the time. And Carr has been good, and Notre Dame's been pretty good at picking up pressure and all that kind of stuff. But it's like when it's relentless, that it can affect you, especially if it's not going well. So that'd be the one thing. But they're just extremely boom or bust. That's how they play defense. And like, would you have guessed that USF only had a 32% success rate against them on offense?
Yeah.
But they averaged 7.3 yards per play because they gave up so many big plays, right? Like, it's like, and they're the team that, like, they gave up so many big plays last year, and it's been the same. Tackling is still like, they're 111th in PFS tackling grades. They're 123rd in EPA per rush. 12 of touchdowns on 14 red zone trips for the other team this year. Allowed 12 plays of 30 plus yards. That's 115th in the country. Like, they are, and they're when you take out the Eastern Washington game and you just put the FBS games that they've played, they're 100th in points per drive. 100th. I mean,
not good.
If Notre Dame plays the way they played the last couple of weeks, they'll score 50 on them.
Yeah.
Or at least 40.
Yeah. I think this game will be for Notre Dame's defense. I think it'll be an interesting test for like maybe a team like Boise State needed to catch Notre Dame early when they were still trying to figure out what they had and how to play and that sort of thing. It'll be a good test for that. And we'll have to update people on Leonard Moore. Hopefully we'll have an update on Thursday next time we see you. So we will end it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. So whatever it is, we go live. We'll be back on Thursday previewing Boise State in full. Hopefully we'll have an update on Leonard Moore to see if he's playing in the game. And if not, then we will, because at this point last week, I think Devontae Smith was upgraded to probable. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. We will talk to you on Thursday. Keep hitting and hustling.